What is good, you guys, and welcome on today's episode. How are you all doing? I hope you all are doing great. And if you're here for the very first time, thank you so much for tuning in. I don't know if you guys can remember, a few weeks ago, we talked about a video of Nikki Haley that was going viral on TikTok. She was on an interview on TV talking about how America is not a racist country, how she experienced racism growing up, like word for word. That was what she said, how she experienced racism growing up, but America is not a racist country, that she believes that America is not built on racism and stuff like that. That clip literally went viral, and I'm sure we talked about it on this channel. Since it is Black History Month, I found a very educative, informative video responding to what Nikki Haley said, the claim that America is not a racist country, trying to convince Black Americans and people of color that what they ever experience is not racism because America is not a racist country. This particular response to her video, I find it very informative, and I really want you guys to hear as well. Since it's Black History Month, let's do some learning and some digging, and let's hear what this man has to say in response to what Nikki Haley said.
Hey, good morning, Nikki Haley. Remember when you said this?
But when you look, it said all men are created equal. I think the intent was to do the right thing. Now, did they have to go fix it along the way? Yes, but I don't think the intent was ever that we were going to be a racist country. The intent was everybody was going to be created equally. And as we went through time, they fixed the things that were not all men are created equal. They made sure women became equal too. All of these things happened over time. But I refuse to believe that the premise of when they formed our country was based on the fact that it was a racist country to start with. I refuse to believe that.
Well, one, your belief is a lie and you know that. Two, in a factual conversation about what is and what isn't, your beliefs, feelings, thoughts, and opinions hold no merit. They are feckless. Keep them to yourself and out of public discourse. And three, the fact that you are holding false beliefs and judgments about an external reality that you cling to, despite incontrovertible evidence to the contrary, is literally the definition of delusional. It's typically a symptom of a mental condition which would make you unfit to hold any office in this country, especially that of the one of president. So come here real quick. Let's have a conversation. You claim that the founding fathers of this country never intended for it to be racist, and you cite Thomas Jefferson as proof of concept, a man who in his lifetime enslaved roughly 600 Africans or more, and impregnated a 14-year-old on multiple occasions. So let's hear from people who worked alongside Thomas Jefferson, who knew him well and understood what he meant when he wrote, "All men are created equal." Men like Roger Taney, who was born in 1777, grew up to become a Supreme Court justice, and in 1857 made a ruling so racist that it led directly to the Civil War. In 1857, in his ruling against Dred Scott, Roger Taney is speaking directly to you, Nikki Haley, and people who think like you, when he ruled that it's difficult at this day to realize the state of public opinion in relation to that unfortunate race. The unfortunate race that he's speaking of is me, people who look like me. The state of public opinion in relation to that unfortunate race, which prevailed in the civilized and enlightened portions of the world at the time of the signing of the Declaration of Independence and when the Constitution of the United States was framed and adopted. But the public history of every European nation displays it in a manner too plain to be mistaken. They, talking about people who look like me, had for more than a century. This was in 1857, so before 1757. So we had for more than a century been regarded as beings of an inferior order and altogether unfit to associate with the white race, either in social or political relations. And so far inferior that we have no rights which the white man is bound to respect, and that the Negro might justly and lawfully be reduced to slavery for my benefit. That means that the United States of America was racist by law. He goes on to say that people like me were bought and sold and treated as an ordinary article of merchandise and trade whenever a profit could be made by it. This opinion was at the time fixed and universal in the civilized portion of the white race. It was regarded as an axiom in morals as well as politics, which no one thought of disputing or supposed to be open to dispute. And men in every grade and position in society daily and habitually acted upon it in their private pursuits as well as in matters of public concern without doubting for a moment the correctness of this opinion. And that belief got its start at America's mother's house. He goes on to say that the opinion thus entertained and acted upon in England was naturally impressed upon the colonies they founded on this side of the Atlantic. And accordingly, a Negro of the African race was regarded by them as an article of property and held and bought and sold as such in every one of the 13 colonies which united in the Declaration of Independence and afterwards formed the Constitution of the United States. The slaves, me, people who looked like me, my ancestors, were more or less numerous in the different colonies as slave labor was found more or less profitable. But no one seemed to have doubted the correctness of the prevailing opinion of the time. What was that opinion? He explains by saying that the language of the Declaration of Independence is equally conclusive. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He goes on to say that the words quoted above would seem to embrace the whole human family, and if they were used in a similar instrument at this day, would be so understood. But it is too clear for dispute that the enslaved African race were not intended to be included and formed no part of the people who framed and adopted this declaration. For if the language, as understood in that day, would embrace them, the conduct of the distinguished gentlemen who framed the Declaration of Independence would have been utterly and flagrantly inconsistent with the principles they asserted, and instead of the sympathy of mankind to which they so confidently appealed, they would have deserved and received universal rebuke and reprobation. But there are two clauses in the Constitution which point directly and specifically to the Negro race as a separate class of persons and show clearly that they were not regarded as a portion of the people or citizens of the government then formed. One of these clauses reserved to each of the 13 states the right to import slaves until the year 1808, if it thinks proper. And by the other provision, the states pledged themselves to each other to maintain the right of property by the master by delivering up to him any slave who may have escaped from his service and be found within their respective territories. These two provisions show conclusively that neither the description of the persons therein referred to nor their descendants were embraced in any of the other provisions of the Constitution. For certainly, these two clauses were not intended to confer on them or their posterity the blessings of liberty or any of the personal rights so carefully provided for the citizen. The only two provisions which point to them and include them treat them as property and make it the duty of the government to protect it. No other power in relation to this race is to be found in the Constitution, and as it is a government of special delegated powers, no authority beyond these two provisions can be constitutionally exercised. The government of the United States has no right to interfere for any other purpose but that of protecting the rights of the owner, the enslaver, the human trafficker, leaving it all together with the several states to deal with this race, whether emancipated or not, as each state may think justice, humanity, and the interest and safety of society required. The states evidently intended to reserve this power exclusively to themselves. And upon a full and careful consideration of the subject, the court is of the opinion that upon the facts stated in the plea in abatement, Dred Scott was not a citizen of Missouri within the meaning of the Constitution of the United States and is not entitled as such to sue in its courts. Now, that racist ruling became law, and that racist law was one of hundreds of racist laws that enshrined racism into the very fabric of this country. And that ruling in particular put us on a direct path to the Civil War, a war fought over states' rights to enslave black people in perpetuity.
What do you guys think about this man's response to Nikki Haley saying that America is not a racist country? This man literally took us to school, brought us back home, fed us well with enough information, prove Haley that she was very, very wrong. We all know she's wrong, and I love the fact that he started the video with a definition of being delusional, because with everything that black people have been through, with she herself using her own mouth to say that she experienced racism growing up, and everything that black people are still going through till today after centuries of slavery, Jim Crow, black people literally fighting for their life, their skin being used to make stuff, sons being forced to have intercourse with their mothers, where the word mother came from. And she said on that TV interview that America is not a racist country. I agree to the fact that she was being delusional, because with every single thing, even till date, I think it was last year they were saying they wanted to bring back Jim Crow. It was the same people who said that black people enjoyed slavery. It was the same people moving history from their curriculum, saying they will no longer be teaching kids about history because they are scared of their kids finding out what their great grandfather did to black people and going back home to go question their parents and their grandparents. And she sat on that TV and said America is not a racist country. Like, make it make sense. It's Black History Month, and that's the reason why I decided to share this video, because I believe this is the best way to reply. It literally gave us every in and out of how that point is so invalid and how she's very, very delusional. Let me hear your thoughts about what this man said in the comment section. Thank you all so much for joining. And if you have not subscribed, please subscribe before you go and turn your bell notification on as well. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, and I love you guys.